That probably works. I think I'm missing something here that I have to... but hey, welcome to Discussing Tabletop, as I add something in that probably should have been here a little earlier. It's just the, Twitch announcements overlay, which I think wasn't on this one. I just realized it. So, I mean, if Blaze shows up and decides to resubscribe or something,
Oh, yeah, those are important to see. Also, good news, I double-checked. We're not muted.
Yes, I've remembered correctly today. It's a miracle. Sometimes that happens.
We've done it.
We've done it. So right now, it's just me and Momo today. Unfortunately, Lightning, though was hanging around in chat, I think is not able to join us directly in the call, and Umber is getting some stuff done. But we'll manage what it is. We got an interesting docket to go over, though. We'll talk about Summer of Legends for Magic the Gathering, D&D Live 2021, Warhammer Fest 2021, a couple board games in Yukon Salon and Crimes and Capers. Yeah, you might have to step away for work. There you go. And then I'm going to talk about knowing your table as the deeper discussion topic, because I think that's an interesting one to get into, which hinted at some stuff that, I was thinking of earlier this week. I guess we can start with Magic Fest, or Summer of Legend. I mean, most of this stuff is weird because, here's the article for it, and it's on the Magic side of the website. But the first thing they talk about is D&D. The Dark Alliance game we talked about a couple weeks ago, it's the first thing they discuss here.
Alright.
I don't know why.
It's marketing, trying to get this thing known. Maybe people didn't know about it, or it was, received kind of meh.
Yeah, and maybe they're thinking that the Dark Alliance people might mix with the Magic people. I have no idea.
It's possible, I guess, but, I mean... I'm still not sure who this game is for.
Yeah, exactly. Modern Horizons 2, the thing about that announcement I have to say is the thing they're showing off are the enemy fetch lands. Now, I'm just going to say this as a quick spiel on this. Fetch lands are incredibly expensive, are something that's rarely reprinted, and are used in every competitive deck.
I love when they continue to do that.
Guess what? They're reprinting at least half of them here.
Oh, reprints. Thank you.
Needed reprints at the rare level.
Thank you, corporate overlords, for doing the bare minimum.
Of not driving up your secondary market anymore and maybe bringing it back down to a reasonable level. I would love to buy a lot of singles if your secondary market wasn't awful.
That is why I had to stop playing, because it's too expensive.
I was buying singles for a while for some of my decks, but then I've kind of at this point in time, I've kind of I plan on singles, but if they ever are cheap, I would get them. And it's there are certain ones that are oh, and I designed these decks I would love to have done, but I'm if it's over $30, I'm going to say no. A $30 card is the most expensive thing, and I might be one of those per deck is the thing too.
Yeah.
That's your big centerpiece.
Yeah, that's your big move. Your centerpiece of your deck. God, spending $30 on what is effectively cardboard.
There's
wild.
hundreds of dollars worth of months.
Yeah, it can get so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wizards, for continuing to support that, basically.
Yep. The big thing I want to bring up with this one is Dungeons & Dragons Adventures in Forgotten Realms, because it's coming out in July, July 23rd, and they've previewed a couple of things for it. The first most interesting thing is that they have, normally on the basic lands, they don't have anything on them. Interestingly enough, each one of them has a little blurb on it.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of cool, and it kind of fits in with
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Yeah, little quest blurbs.
Yeah, they're
or lore blurbs that a DM would say.
they're putting it as a prompt for an adventure almost, you know.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a power bird kill card. Of
Power
course there
kill.
is.
Portable hole. Which they use the portable hole as like an aggressive thing. Toss a portable hole under them.
Of course, yeah.
Uh-huh.
What else are you gonna use it for?
And the big thing they've showed off is Tiamat so far.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The big thing might be this prosperous innkeeper, is a halfling citizen. That seems pretty strong. No, it's the big dragon.
Mm-hmm. When you put creatures into play, you gain life.
That's pretty neat. That is also a lot of colors to play it.
Tiamat's doing a 5-color thing, which is kind of unusual. Actually, it half makes sense because, you know, all the colors of dragons.
Yeah, that makes sense. But also, like, I mean, when I played, I never made anything above 2 colors.
I have very specifically built rainbow decks, or decks which only have splashes of other colors in them, and then ways of like cycling mana to possibly get them.
I am your classic black and white deck player.
I like
that's all I played basically.
Those are good colors too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Tiamat. She summons a bunch of dragons to your hand. She's a 7/7 flyer for 7 mana. It's neat.
I will say I guess borderless card I'm not the biggest fan of. I like the normal card more.
I kind of actually agree. I think the art's a little better. It just seems much more interesting art, I guess. Like I understand, like it's kind of a neat, different art, but the borderless one, the image, it feels less. Like the other one is Tiamat like ravaging the land or something.
Yeah, over like a battlefield.
Yeah.
And there's some like adventurers fighting her, and she's just there.
Yeah.
Chilling.
Just there chilling. Then apparently the buy a box promotional will be the Vorpal sword, where you can spend some mana, and if the equipped creature with the Vorpal sword damages a player, they just lose the game.
Yeah, it seems fine.
Yeah, I mean it's 8 mana. It's expensive, and it still has to hit an enemy player while it's on them. You know, while they're equipped with it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, by the time you can use this, the game's probably either ended or close to ending, anyways.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's neat. I kind of want to see more.
I mean, I like crossovers. They're neat and fun.
This is like, in comparison to the Warhammer 40k crossover, this is the one.
This one
that,
at least makes sense.
Like when they told me Tiamat's a 7/7 dragon god, I'm like, cool.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I can compare it to other god monsters that have existed in
I don't know
Magic.
how I'm gonna compare a Empire of Man spaceship to anything.
Well, it's like I can compare that to like their version of like Theros, which is like Greek mythology, where they have their Greek gods in that one. Yeah. Where I could be like, yeah, here's those Greek gods. I can compare them. This is just like that. There are certain things you can compare and certain things you can't, and I'm still cheesed about that stuff they're doing.
I do like this Beholder collector booster. That box is really neat.
Yeah,
it's a really good box.
They got some interesting, definitely, art for things. Ugh. Anyway, we should move on though, because we don't want to get distracted too much.
What?
D&D Live 2021. It's coming up, and it's Wizards is partnering with G4. Yes, G4.
Yeah.
They're back in
Remember
YouTube
G4
form.
a long time ago? I do, and they're back kind of now. I think they're still setting up, but yeah, I like D&D, and I like watching D&D shows, so you know, I'm always into this kind of stuff.
It'll be interesting how they do it, because 2 years ago, trying to have a late lunch. 2 years ago, I remember the D&D Live because my pals, Will, and a couple other acquaintances of mine, went to it. I think it was Scott, Dale Rick, Doxy.
Mm-hmm.
There was a few others I'm not remembering off the top of my head, and then Will, who I've done stuff with years ago, and I still do stuff with occasionally, like offline, nowadays. And like Siege with Momo, which Will joins us occasionally. Yeah. So like that was neat. Last year they went all virtual, and are they going?
I remember the virtual one because I watched some of it. They were interesting and good things. I imagine they're still going to be virtual because there's still a pandemic.
The thing is, 4 games with a star-studded cast playing with expert DMs. Yeah, it feels as though they're not, just from the talks of it. But they're keeping it smaller than that 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Huh. This is okay. So this is just side note of some weird stuff going on. They just talk about G4 and some of their stuff where they're bringing back actual original Ninja Warrior, and they're partnering with the WWE for a competition video game series.
Interesting.
Wrestling.
I used to watch that. Not anymore.
I think the most I got in is a friend of mine was really into the video games back when I was much, much younger, and so I would play with them with the video games a lot. So I did learn a lot of the stuff from those video games,
Yeah.
I knew a good chunk back in those days of the wrestlers.
Oh, I have no idea what goes on in wrestling nowadays. I know Kane retired recently, which is wild that he was still doing things. Yeah.
He was I'm thinking about. I'm like,
the 90s.
He's ancient. He's really ancient. I'm like, really?
It was Kane. It was either Kane or Undertaker.
They're both ancient. I think Undertaker is really ancient because I remember we were doing the PS2 era, and then he got a PS1 game that was a classic one, and it had Undertaker and people like Hulk Hogan and stuff, and that's the era he was in. And that's 80s.
Kane was a wrestler for 30 years.
Damn. I mean, more power to you if your body can last that long for that kind of stuff.
I mean, yeah. It's acting, but it's still incredibly dangerous.
Well, yeah, it's like stunt acting, I'd call it.
Yeah, it's stunt performing, basically.
Yeah, they can still get injured from all that crap.
Dude, wrestlers have actually died, so
yeah,
it's very dangerous. Anyways.
But anyway, D&D Live. I think we'll probably talk about it when D&D Live.
Yeah, I'll probably try and catch some of the games. I caught some of the last year's games. They were pretty good. One had Liam O'Brien. Anything with Liam O'Brien in it, and he's amazing at voice work and drama.
Because apparently they're going to do the 2-day streaming event in July 16th to 17th, and then it will continue with 4 all-new limited run campaign series that premiere on G4 in the fall. So I think this is kind of advertisement a little bit more than the actual original event that they kind of had it a couple of years ago.
I wonder who they're all gonna have.
Yeah, I think it's gonna probably be a lot more high-end names. Again, as much as I have to say Dale Rick / Scott, as much as he's a name sort of out there, he's still pretty low on the totem pole. So I was like, that's awesome. You go to D&D Live, Yeah. I don't think they'd have anybody like him, unfortunately, this coming up.
Yeah, I don't think now, because with the explosion in popularity and tons of famous people starting to play now. I mean, Jeff Goldblum is going to be in a D&D game.
Crazy.
So yeah, it is crazy that it's honestly gotten this far and popular.
It's the power of 5th edition.
It is. It really is.
5th edition is just...
Anyone can play it. It's incredibly easy.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's incredibly easy. Anyone can play it. And it has an appeal.
Yeah.
I think that's that appeal that I always say is 5th edition starts you out as the hero, even at level 1.
Mm-hmm.
So even in the lowest level campaign, you will start feeling like a hero right away in comparison.
You are strong in 5th edition.
Uh-huh. And that's something you don't get in a lot of other game systems. And I think that's an appeal for a lot of people. People like those Lord of the Rings. They like their, epic fantasies.
Yeah, you want to be the big hero. You don't want your first session being smacked around by a goblin and feeling bad.
Exactly. And so I think the 5th edition does that good balance of simple and epic. So, yeah, I can understand its popularity. But, yeah. G4 and D&D Live. I guess we'll talk about it more around July or when we hear more about the casting of this, definitely.
It's 2 months away.
It feels like a long time, but it really isn't, is that thing.
I mean, time is meaningless now.
It really kind of is. Warhammer Fest.
Hey, Warhammer, let me open my links back up so I can complain again.
Alright, yeah. Apparently, day 1 was Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, day 1 was Age of Sigmar, and then the next 4 days were 40k.
Now, day 4 had...
Day 4 had some...
Warhammer Underworlds, Necromondium, Evernordica Imperials.
Oh shit, it just got posted. There's a new Sigmar Day blog thing. I gotta read this, hold on. Oh, it's Old World? I don't fucking know. I'll read it later. I love Fantasy Warhammer. I'm not the biggest 40k nerd because I don't know anything about it. But I know that Necromunda and the Aeronautic Imperialist is 40k. There were crab people announced. They're like a fishman army, basically, which is neat. Some really cool looking minis. This exists now. I mean, this thing exists.
What's Warhammer Underworlds then? Is it an entirely different thing?
It's probably a new spin-off because I've not actually heard of it.
Yeah, I think it's
Underworlds is. I think.
Well, they say like they have
these are the fish people.
3 war bands announced for it or something.
Yeah, there's like there might be a line of new factions. And the first one I guess they announced were the Soul Raiders, which are like fish people. I'm guessing because there's a crab and a fish mini. And then they announced, I forget on what day, a vampire army, which I had an undead army back when I played. Although I posted what the vampire leader looks like, and it's the best I can describe it is a dragon centaur.
Yeah, those exist.
It's the best I can describe it. But like Fantasy Warhammer's in a weird state currently because they like kind of deleted the old world ages ago and realized people didn't like the new one, so they're trying to make the new one better and also bring the old Warhammer stuff back. So it's weird.
Let's think one of these and call it a day.
Just think like the main one that has the
I'm gonna link day 1. Day 1
yeah,
sounds good.
Day 1. Day 1 had some nice stuff in it. I apologize, chat, if I sound negative on Age of Sigmar. If there are any Age of Sigmar fans watching, my reason for disliking it is the most surface level reason for hating something you can have. It's different. That's why I don't like it. 40k I just don't know anything about. Age of Sigmar I hate. 40k is cool. I've tried getting into it. There's just too much stuff because it's very old.
And Age of Sigmar is like the update that they did to fantasy, kind of.
Update to fantasy. They blew up the old fantasy world. And like, here's a bunch of new stuff. And then the system launched without a point system in a miniatures game.
That's the problem.
And then they put a point system in. But you should have had it to begin with. The fun thing.
Even I, who doesn't know a lot about miniatures, knows you need a point system to figure out
like,
balance.
One of the interesting things I saw in one of these articles was the way they framed it. Where is the article? I had it just somewhere. Trying to re-Google it. Is they frame it like they're bringing back this big epic god who's a big centaur man, and I tried looking this god up in on the Warhammer wikis, and I'm like, did I just forget this guy exists? Nah, he's just a new guy, and they're framing him as like someone returning and being epic, and I have no idea who this guy is. The way they phrased it, Kragnos, the end of empires, free at last from his mythical bonds, the ancient god of earthquakes, slayer of dragons, and force of unalloyed destruction has returned to rock the mortal realm. I don't know who this guy is. He's completely new. He looks cool. He's got a cool miniature. He's a big centaur dude.
He's supposed to be really tall, it looks like.
It looks like a very big miniature.
They say he towers over all mega gargants.
I don't know what that is.
No. But I assume because like this one image has this little tiny miniature next to him, which I think is a normal sized one, so he's like...
He's a very big creature.
Yeah.
Also looks like
he's a foot tall!
Oh, that's a big miniature.
Oh no, that's a foot within the miniature. Sorry. I don't know how tall he is. I'm lost on that one. Freaking.
And they added some big vampire people. I feel like I'm the worst person to talk about Warhammer.
Look, honestly,
we needed Umber here.
We needed Umber, so we're gonna keep it simple on Warhammer Fest.
There's some new miniatures, some Warhammer news. I continue to be salty that they only really like release 40k stuff.
Yeah. They like their futuristic fantasy.
It's because like when you think Warhammer, your mind goes to Space Marine. It doesn't go to this Centaur guy.
Gotta be honest, it doesn't go to Space Marines for me though. Like when I think Warhammer, my big exposure to Warhammer is Vermintide.
Yeah, that's true. Vermintide was pretty popular.
So that's where my brain comes to, like, Warhammer, like, because, like, I always, like, knew of Warhammer, but never, like, you know, I always thought there was two versions of Warhammer, or there were two different games that I always called them Warhammer together. There was, like, the sci-fi one and the fantasy one, because I've seen both of them.
Yeah.
Their actual connections together never entered in my brain very well.
Yeah, they are connected, but I just don't, like, care enough to connect the two.
Understandable.
It's, like, weird to connect them because one is super sci-fi and the other is super fantasy.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
It's Warhammer news. Plenty of it.
We're gonna go style some bears and lumberjacks.
Yeah, we're gonna do. Yeah, that's what we're gonna go do.
I wanted to talk about this game because I was telling Momo at the beginning of the show. I think it was 2018 or 2017. The first time I went to PAX South, because I've been twice. I saw this game in their like independent tabletop showcase. After that, I heard nothing about it. There were actually a couple times over the last couple of years, I Googled it just to look into it, like if it had ever been released, you know, because I thought it was like a very neat game. At the time, I didn't have a lot of extra spending money, so like I couldn't buy, like, there was a couple of games that, like this one, and at the time, I think it was Wicked Apples, that I wanted to maybe get a copy of. I couldn't afford it. Like Wicked Apples, I did get years later, I think at PAX Unplugged, because they showed up there too. But Yukon Salon did not. Never saw them again. Now it turns up Atlas Games probably either is publishing for them or bought up the game or something, you know.
Yeah. It looks fun. I mean, the concept is silly. Hairstyling bears and beards.
Beards of lumberjacks, yeah.
Yeah.
And each one has like a weird name. Like there's the Jethro, the Sweet Caroline.
Yeah, it seems very silly.
I mean, that's the thing is, it was very silly. It's like, you know, you're up in the Yukon doing this, and it's... I don't know whether there's much else to say about this game other than it's an incredibly silly kind of game, and we're probably, you know, just be... It was fun to play back then, so I can't say it wouldn't be now.
Yeah, it looks very silly and fun. It also apparently has wooden dice.
Yeah. Just basics. If 54 cards, the set of wooden dice, it's $15, which is, you know, for a small game,
That's pretty reasonable.
not bad. 2 to 4 players, ages 10 plus, 10 to 15 minutes of play. It's coming out sometime this month, so I don't think it's formally out, but they're saying this month at some point in time on Atlas Games' website.
Yeah.
So, glad to see it come out.
Yeah, I love seeing little games like this come out.
It does look like there had been a Kickstarter at some point in time.
Yeah, there was a Kickstarter.
God. The Kickstarter, I think, was originally when they first like put out first, probably back in 2017. Because if I look at this, the original estimated delivery was August 2017.
Oof, that's certainly a long time ago.
Yeah, so the thing I can kind of say is perhaps the company had the Kickstarter, and I thought it was 2017 when I went to PAX South the first time. It might have been 2018, but I think 2017. I think there was 2 years in between. So I went and saw it. They had their Kickstarter later that year, probably released it, and now like they had that initial run, which probably was successful, and then they found a publisher for like full release. So cool. It's a
pretty good for them.
Yeah, it's a good story. Interesting one. So, I like stories like that. Let's talk Crimes and Capers a little bit here. Crimes and Capers it's a mystery party game. Have you done a lot of mystery party games?
Not too many. I've done I don't actually think I've done any.
The last one I did, I don't remember the exact title of it, but it was a high school age one, so it was probably like semi-adult, but like, you know, they kept the humor pretty low, you know, kept the lewdness pretty low, kind of thing, you know, a little bit of adult humor. Joe owned it, and he had owned it since high school, may I note, so he had a long time, and it was sort of like a monster horror themed thing. So like one of the characters was like a mad scientist, another was like a monster hunter. One of us was like, I think I was the Undertaker's son who was also a werewolf.
Murder mystery party game.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it. I might be able to find it because it had like
if we count, I guess like Clue or Mafia. I played those. There is just a game called Murder Mystery Game. That's apparently just a game, just interesting. But yeah,
I'd have to talk to Joe about what it's called.
Too many of these.
Yeah, well, it was like interesting that like I think like things like Clue and a lot of those other ones have that level of deduction. Like this game was played by, we all had these roles and we all had these secrets. And we went through this entire, like, setup to try to figure out who murdered this one person or something. And it was this crazy setup where, like, there is chance... It's, like, it's not completely set in stone, like, who does what, you know? It's not one of those things. It's sort of like there is a randomness to it. I don't know if you could necessarily replay it because, again, like, you do tend to learn the other character's secrets... And that's a hard thing to kind of forget, you know?
Yeah.
And these characters are, like, actually have, like, some design behind the secrets. Because they give you, like, these kind of, like, backstories and stuff that, you know, you really couldn't switch them out very easily and not be obvious. Especially because there's parts of the story which revolve around that kind of stuff, you know? Like, being seen late at night in the graveyard, or something like that, or this weird howling noise outside, that like it's scratching at someone's door late at night, weird things like that happened. Or I think one of the characters owned a killer plant that was like a Audrey 2 kind of thing.
Feed me, Seymour?
Yeah, they had like a plant like that. It was a weird little murder mystery. So every time when I kind of like looked at this, that's kind of what it made me feel like, but I'm not sure what it's going to be like exactly.
From reading the article I found, it sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah. I mean, they got 2 different ones that they've shown off. There's the High School Hijinks and Lady Leona's Last Witch. High School Hijinks, of course, your high school students working together to solve a mystery. The Last Wish one is you're like, I guess it's Lady Leona's died, and you're there at her estate and looking into a mystery, like high society wise. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you're there for the will reading or something.
And then you gotta go to a haunted prison. Yeah,
totally haunted prison. It's always the haunted prison.
It's a ghost in the basement who will end you.
Yeah. That's the answer to everything, haunted prison. But no, it's interesting. Glad they're doing.
Seems fun.
I'd like to test them out, honestly. But a lot of board games lately. I gotta do more tabletop simulator, which may have some of these games, may not.
Tabletop sim is always a good time for like game night.
Yeah. I think that's all the main topics. I was going to mention something that's going to be on Kickstarter soon just because its name was insane, but maybe I'll mention it still because its name is insane. If you do not know Epic Spell Wars, it's a fun, interesting little game. And they have Epic Spell Wars of the Battle Wizards, ANNIHILAGEDDON 2, Extreme NACHO Lessons, and it's their pre-launch pay.
Oh my god, that is the title.
Well, I mean, they've added to it because it was like it was first the Epic Spell Wars, and then it was the Epic Spell Wars ANNIHILAGEDDON or whatever the hell it's supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be like Annihilation Armageddon or something. I just can't say it together for the life of me.
That is a long title.
And I don't know why it's Extreme Nacho Legends, but that's what, like, I'm like, really? Why?
Alright.
I don't know. It's like a Spell Wars meets heavy metal game. That's what I'll describe it on. And anyway, that's their deck builder. It's a thing. Maybe I'll bring it back up when the actual Kickstarter comes out later on. Oh. But let's enter a deeper discussion topic, I guess.
Yeah.
Knowing your table. This is something I kind of wanted to talk about because it's one of those things that I think it's important for players and DMs to kind of know who you're playing with. Mm-hmm. To know the kind of table you're at. Granted, you can't always know it because sometimes you're meeting people for the first time.
Yeah.
And you got to adapt a little bit or maybe learn a little bit. But as of late, I feel like there's times when I'm hearing about issues with people that, like, on a couple of fronts that kind of hint at me that maybe that's not something we're getting as much of for whatever reason.
Yeah, I definitely think that is possible. I know, at least for me, when I DM, typically I prefer to have at least one or two chats with a person and know them a little bit. Not obviously like be best friends, but have, like, I at least have spoken to you once in my life.
Yep.
That kind of thing. But that's kind of hard sometimes.
Yeah, no, it is. There's definitely certain people that I can say in my life that I've been able to read more about how they're going to play than others. You know, because I guess that's like an idea of, like, because you're like the DM on the DM side, because they're trying to make it fun for everyone. Mm-hmm. You want to, like, kind of feel like what kind of game everybody wants.
Yeah.
That might not be easy though too, because it depends. You might get a team that half of them like combat and half of them don't, and then you're just in a weird space. Or
Yeah, this is there's a thing I'm always kind of a proponent of. Set if you do a session 0, I'm a proponent, you should do a session 0. You should have people get in a call and talk to each other briefly, and you could go over the themes of your campaign and stuff. Ask the question. This is a very important question that I think should be asked by RDM. What are and aren't you comfortable with theme-wise? And that's something very important that I think needs to be asked, because a lot of DMs don't really think to do that, because we're obviously telling a story we want to tell, and things like that. But you gotta remember, like, you're telling a story for people.
Yeah.
To experience, so you want them to be comfortable with it. Like for my game, I very heavily mentioned, and
are you breaking up there, or is it me at my end? It might be my end. Let me check my end. Something on my end. It's a little bit something on my end. I'll play around with it. See if I can fix it up.
Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Hey, my internet blinked out for a moment.
Oh, okay. I thought it was on my end for a second.
Yeah, that was me.
Okay.
I was saying words. Right. Mine is a very darker themed campaign. I went through and asked players, are you comfortable with these darker, heavier themes that are common in Grimdark? And some players listed some things they were comfortable with, so I made it a bit less Grimdark. It's slightly happier. There's some silly things in it now that happen. And my party is kind of like, they're a little bit silly and jokey, which is fine. But yeah, definitely ask people what they're comfortable with theme-wise. Yeah. And that's a way you can get to know them as well, to know their preferences and such.
That's one of those things that I think I should do, but it's also the fact that, like, I really have to say, and this is going to be honest, there's a lot of stuff I'm just not comfortable with anyway, and that I try to avoid.
Yeah.
Things like, I try to keep, like, you know, like, even when I have, like, something that very graphic happens, I try to keep it very simple, like, for graphic violence, you know, it's like, you know, I don't go into, I try to go to, like, the bare minimum of details.
Yeah.
If people have, like, you know, a sexual encounter, I keep it just relatively, like, PG-13.
Yeah,
you know?
the way I handle that is, hey, you, like, meet this person, black screen. What are you guys doing?
Yeah. It's just, you hook up or something.
Yeah.
It's like, even, like, there's a topic that's come up a bunch in my Thursday game that I'm not really comfortable with. It's, like, one of those things that's, like, they go way too much into drugs. I admit, that's freaking Mads, which I kind of get pissed off about. She's way too much onto it. And now, granted, I have nothing against marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be able to, like, this is a little bit, you know, there's opinion that's probably relatively popular now. I think it should be legalized.
Yeah, I think that's a popular opinion.
Just like alcohol and tobacco. You know what? I don't do any of those.
Yeah.
Like, alcohol is the most comfortable thing I'm with, because it's, like, one of those things that, like, if you're thinking fantasy, shows up a lot. If you're going to talk about, like, you know, smoking something, I don't care what it is, you're just doing it. But she dives way too much in depth for me, and it does make me a little uncomfortable. Not so much that I don't think I can't handle it, you know, but I just don't like the way that she dives too much into it, I feel sometimes. You know,
yeah.
I would like to keep it rather simple or something. Or, like, the thing is, she also uses an excuse for doing stuff. You know, and I don't like that, too. But that's just minor complaints there.
Yeah, I as a player try not to do anything like too. I try to keep it PG as a player for the most part. So like, I don't really go out of my way to do drugs as a character. If it happens, it happens. Because people experience that stuff sometimes in worlds and things. But like, I'm not gonna go out of my way to force it or anything. And as a DM, I tend to also keep that stuff as like an option in the background, but I'm not gonna have an NPC go up to you and be like, "You want to buy some drugs?"
No, and like I can't admit that I've built characters that have been around certain things. Like a good example is I had a character years and years ago that had tobacco because they smoked, and that was one of those things that I was like, you know, that was something that like they had as a kind of crutch, or like nowadays my elephant character Andros, he enjoys a good drink, perhaps a little too much. Granted, I have a minor magical item which can recreate any drink that I've already had that's alcoholic.
Oh, no.
So it's like
that could be fine. Yeah,
it's not a great thing technically.
I had a character who wasn't an alcoholic but acquired a flask of unending alcohol, and they became an alcoholic because of it. But yeah, I mean that you can do that and not draw like super attention to it too.
Exactly. I keep it minor when I do those things. Like Andros' drinking have come up like twice in minor conversation. At most, it's been like, what kind of alcohol are you serving? Can I try it all? You know, things like that, you know?
Yeah. Like, I mean, I had a character a long time ago who was an alchemist of some kind, and she had found some weird-looking mushrooms in the forest and tested them, and then ended up trying them, and then got so high she got the paralyzed condition for 8 hours. But that was kept very, very low key, and I was like, "All right, you're paralyzed for 8 hours. Moving on."
I think the worst I did was I had a hallucinating dart hit someone in the neck one time, and then they fought a gorilla and a tiger, which were in an alleyway, which weren't really there.
See, that's funny. Though.
Yeah,
that's
but
comedic.
It's comedic. It's played for jokes. It was like he was like a rogue character and had wandered off from like the fighter character. It was like 2 players, and he was trying to get into mischief. You know, I forget what exactly he was doing, and so it was like all of a sudden dart in his neck. You know. And then he's like, there's a tiger over there. Now there's a gorilla. You know. And that game was really silly though. I mean, like, because honestly, let me just put it this way: this character was playing like a rat folk, and you know, they lived to be like 9.
Oh.
So he was like 3.
Yeah, I had a rat folk in the game who was just a severe alcoholic, and I'm just. My character was like, "You're not gonna live that long. Stop."
It was what was the joke also that like the other character, which is just like a normal human, it's like, so he's your pet effectively. I mean, because we were doing Oriental Adventures, so it was like a samurai and his ninja. So I'm like, it really was kind of like a rat folk ninja and like the human samurai. It was like, oh my god. But so I mean, like, and reading how a player wants to play, that can vary too. Kind of like talking with them is great. I think it's also great to read a character, because I think that's something that I've had some issues with lately sometimes, and it's been a mixed bag. Like, I think the best example is, I like the guy, Tiv. His characters for Madness of the Land back in the day, out of all 3 of them, I understood one of them.
Oh boy.
His rogue character, on paper, was simple. The way he played them was a little complex. We'll put it that way. You know, that was that on that. So it made it hard to read him. Then he had Red, the half-orc barbarian, who just pretty much said red because he had no intelligence. Of course. And then he played the weirdest goddamn cleric ever, which I think worked on paper. I don't know what the fuck his character was like. I really, honestly, was completely lost on his character. He was a cleric kind of necromancer for a neutral deity that like made deals with souls to have them or something. Like he was adding a lot of weird flavor in, which I'm not against flavor, but he went in like these directions I didn't understand, and that's a problem for my end.
Sounds so weird.
When I don't understand it, I can't adapt to it.
Yeah, like I think at least for my game, I have a cast of characters that are pretty for the most part easy to understand. Character wise, I have Lindsay in the game. Lindsay is a ball of chaos, so Lindsay's a little hard to read sometimes, but her character's pretty easy to read.
Lindsay, I
love Lindsay. I'm gonna preface this. I love Lindsay. Lindsay is one of my best friends. Her character's a pure chaos a lot of the times.
I don't know how she's going to go for a character.
Yeah,
it's one of two ways, and it's unpredictable which way it was. Like the Wintress direction is chaotic but understandable, or there's chaotic and not understandable, which I preferred not to have.
We had ages ago. She played an Eladrin cleric. I didn't understand anything about that cleric at all, because they were like supposed to be like I think they were a grave cleric, so they're like all about, you know, making sure the dead are like preserved and stuff, and undead die horribly. And then one of the last sessions before that campaign ended, Lindsay found like a wounded orc we were fighting and was like, "I'm gonna look, and is there anyone around?" DM's like, "No." I kick him into the pyre, and I'm just like, that feels weird.
So you're evil is what you're saying.
Say alignment shift?
I was always evil.
I was always chaotic evil.
I was always the villain. They just don't suspect it.
Then we got Jeremiel, Lindsay's weird ass sorcerer, who I vaguely understand but have no idea how will ever act. It's like such lovely moments of, I'm going to sneak into this old man's room and drink his dreams.
Yep. What about depressed, was it like monk brother?
Oh yeah, Friar Mark.
Friar Mark, who was just...
I had no idea how to
depressed.
Mark.
I'm like, so you're both a normal like Hua monk and a Occidental monk at the same time. I'm like, okay,
sure, my dude.
Sure, okay. It was the weirdest. It's like, cause like I'm like, you know, I'm not against, you know, the martial artist style.
And half an egg.
No, thank you. I don't like it. Hard-boiled eggs.
Do you like any egg?
Nope. Bye. She's offering me random food I don't want.
Can I offer you an egg in these trying times?
Mm-hmm. I mean, eggs are good for one thing, and that is for baking or disappearing in the course of cooking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You can use it for breadings or bakings.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Bye,
Nothing
I'm
else.
on my show. Yep. Where was I on my train of thought? Anyway, yeah.
Friar Mark being weird.
Friar Mark was weird. Friar Mark was hard to read, but I didn't need to read Friar Mark very well.
It was a one-shot.
One-shots, or like shorter campaigns, have a disadvantage to longer campaigns when it comes to reading. Longer campaigns, you can make up for earlier mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Shorter campaigns, you can't. Like the Star Trek campaign. I vaguely understood 3 of your characters, and 2 of them, I have to be honest, I had no read on at all. And even the 3 that I vaguely knew, by the time you were playing them, I'm like, okay, that plays a little different than I thought. I didn't know how Charlotte or Meowdy were going to be played exactly. Eric's character, whose name is escaping me, Benedict. Benedict played a lot differently than I thought Benedict was going to play.
Yeah, I thought Benedict was just going to be like a giant idiot, but no.
And then, like, I don't know how Bob or Steph was going to be played either, like, because those were very last-minute characters, unfortunately, and it came to that. And I think that had its issues on itself, being last-minute. Again, the entire session was pretty last-minute because of my own fault.
Very thrown together.
Yeah. It was a little harder for me to throw it together than I wanted it to be, you know, and it was an okay job, but like issues like that can arise. Like, it's got to be honest. Like, if we talk about Carrying Crown's the perfect example to talk about, because Carrying Crown, Pathfinder's a little more complex. Like, I can say this about any game I'm running, you know. I have an initial check on everybody's character. That doesn't mean I know everything about that character or develop it. Something like D&D, which is a relatively simple system. If I look over your character and I see, like, this is your class, this is your archetype, I have a general idea about your character already. Yeah. That means jack shit in Pathfinder, which is one of those issues.
Like, I'll be honest, as much as I love Zoram, I can't imagine how weird he was to read at the start, because he's like, he started as a ranger who hunted undead. He's a giant hippie.
It's sort of like, I didn't have an idea on a lot of characters, and, like, I think it was one of those things is, like, I feel like Pathfinder, much more than 5th edition, not only did we need a session 0, I really needed to sit down, and this is something I might want to do at some point down, at least sit down with people for a little bit and, like, talk about their goddamn characters, about what you have, what you're planning, and kind of things like that. Because
I'm gonna be honest with Carrying Crown, I still cannot read Anne at all. I never know what Anne is going to do or how Anne is going to react to something.
Well, I think that's...
I just can't. And that might just be because Android.
I think it's 50% because of Android and 50% because of Umber trying to get into Anne, which always isn't as successful as he wants. You know, which is understandable. You know, he has you know, injuries that have made it more difficult for him. Yeah. There are others that are like B is simple, but B is just playing pretty much the characters Jess normally plays.
Yeah, the B is a Jess character.
Jess characters are very similar to each other, which is not necessarily bad, but it means they're easy to read.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta play what you're used to.
Yeah, again, which is not bad. It's sort of like Joe likes playing halflings or gnomes and then rogues. That's his favorite thing to play. He plays other stuff occasionally, just to be different. But if you're going to talk about a character he's going to play, that's it. I know Blaze plays a lot of clerics. He's used to clerics. It ended up being that just because of situations, he started playing clerics, and it became the role he kind of fits into. Now, granted, sometimes it's druids, sometimes it's clerics, but that divine caster section, he kind of fills that.
For me, I play a lot of half casters a lot of the time. That's generally like what I do, is I'll just play like half casters because it gives me more or less simple casting and some martial-y abilities.
Yeah. And again, like, for me, I'm one of those people because I'm also like a DM. I'm a DM a lot more than I'm a player most of the times. Yeah. I like variety. So I'm like, what the fuck am I going to play this time? Sure, that. You know? Though I do have a partial thing for bards. I don't know.
Bards are just fun.
Some of my favorite characters were honestly bards that I've played. They just like... not that I don't mind 5th edition, because there's been fun 5th edition stuff, but I have to say, like, I really like Pathfinder's bards, because there's such crazy bards you can play.
Yeah.
But... I think what it comes down to is, like, each person is differently for reading. Like, I think Umber and Lightning, the reading them depends on their character a little bit sometimes, too. Like, Anne is very hard to read, I think. Dranthir's a lot easier to read.
Yeah, I can read Dranthir pretty easily.
Yeah. But, like, it's sort of like, I could read Ling, but it was also one of those problems because Ling had a lot of issues. So it's like, I understood Ling, but it's also like, Ling was in such a place I didn't know how to work with Ling, you know? And that's an entirely different problem that you can come to a table, is you can come to problems where it's how do you work with a character. You might know the character, but they could be an issue to work with.
I kind of have that in my game with someone.
Again, like,
I've told stories.
Yeah. Issue to work with is... I don't want it to sound negative. Because it's not really
they're
negative.
Not necessarily bad characters.
Yeah.
I liked Ling as a character a lot.
Yeah.
Ling was just, for me, hard to predict and interact with. Probably a big part was first part of the campaign, steep language barrier between my character and Lightning's character.
Yeah. language barrier, and I think it's one of those things is like when you get off to a wrong foot in a game or in a setup for a team, it's hard to correct that. Very hard. And I think that's where it comes down to. Because that's not the first time I've had things like that happen. And sometimes it actually happens later on in a campaign as you're developing it.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta be honest, there was a character I switched off of because he went in weird directions I wasn't very happy with. You know, the character was was effectively, because of circumstances and interactions with some of the other PCs, which were not necessarily hostile but competitive, drove him to turn to very dark and possibly evil places.
Oh, yeah, I think you've mentioned this character before in conversation.
Ended up a half demon,
that
half fiend, and then we all, like, there was a big near party wipe where only a few people survived, and then like I had probably had the option of being resurrected because we did have a cleric that was high enough level to cast the stuff, and I said no. I chose a different character, and the character was very different, but I had to say no at that point in time. Granted, like, I was a little ass when I made that character. That character was a bitch to begin with. I'm not going to deny that. But you can do that. And, like, I thought it was a cool idea.
Yeah, I've played my share of not the best characters in my life.
Oh, yeah.
And they were cool concepts to me, but they did not work with the party at all.
It's like working with the party, working with the system, and figuring that out. It's sort of like when we look at it like initial Zoram's build, or like initial Anne's build, and initial Ling's build. None of them worked very well.
Yeah.
It was the unfortunate thing of like, you know, Zoram probably worked the best out of them, but Zoram was cross-classing between two things, and there was a hunter you could have played anyway.
Yeah, because I didn't see that on the website.
And you know, multi-classing, it's one of those things in Pathfinder that Pathfinder kind of punishes you for it a little bit. It's hard to make up for it. There are some things that make up for it. Like some of the prestige classes, I feel like have interesting enough abilities to make up with it. But you have to realize there are very few prestige classes in Pathfinder.
Yep.
Because they focus more on, you get really cool stuff for sticking with your class.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I like playing with a lot of people, but there's definitely some people that like even like they're much more handle to play with, I think.
Yeah.
For various reasons. And it's not necessarily that they're bad people or anything like that. People on my Monday game. And you know, I've had some issues on things with like Monday, Tuesday games and stuff like that, or going back and looking at it. I'm sorry, Madness of Land had a lot of issues. It had a lot of them. It was like Joe. Joe's first character in Madness was awful. He was awful. Now, granted, he had Bow Out Season 2, but Season 3 he came back with a new character. Because his first season character was really bad.
Yeah, I mean, that happens, definitely. I mean, I'm currently in Carrying On, I'm currently just playing a different character right now. So I definitely, it's not even for like, I didn't like this character for reason, that's mechanic reason. I've had characters I hated playing was like, because they're not the greatest character. Example of this is in one of my Thursday games, I'm playing a character I think it's just a bad character design, and I'm hoping that the arc gets sped along a bit and I can just play a new character.
Well, Carrying Crown's a great example because we just switched out to 3 new characters. And that's really hard to do, and I'm worried that there's going to be more, like, I think we did a very good job of having that like role-playing session that helped a lot. But I still worry that there's not enough between everybody to like really get them connected. Like, I think your character and Lightning's characters did okay, but you're not as connected as I would like. And then Cell's characters, I haven't read a lot about. I kind of read, like not like, you know what I mean. Read the character very well yet, because I understand a little bit about how you and Lightning play, so I can kind of see where your characters are coming from to a degree. But Cell's character, I'm kind of like, I don't know yet.
Yeah, Amir is just because I don't know the player. I have a very difficult time currently reading that character, but with limited interaction of the person, that is probably why.
Mm-hmm.
And Olivia is, I don't think, the hardest to read because her reasons for being there is just flat out stated.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're very cut and dry reasons too, which I think is not the best, but can be worked with. I think I think it's one of the issues is that I think for Olivia, I feel like can work together with many of the other characters. Working together with Anne, who's a hot mess of not understanding emotions, but keeps getting these emotions they don't understand.
Having emotions.
Yeah, is really the issue that I think would be there. And it's an unfortunate thing that Anne has become the core of the team by accident.
By complete accident.
And that's the problem. This is what I worry about. Like, I feel like Olivia works well with most of the other team, and I'm not sure about 100%,
Yeah.
And I gotta be honest, Byers surprises me at every turn.
I can never read Byers.
I don't understand what Byers is going to do. I don't know what Manacle's going to do.
I'm like, alright, it's Byers' turn. What madness is going to happen?
And when he pulls out that, I researched a bunch of feats for my special ability, I'm like, what?
Alright, I didn't expect that one.
Yeah, no. I'm just like, I never know what to expect from Manacle. It's just madness a lot of times.
Yeah. Manacle is, for me, the definition of an unreadable character.
Yes. He's a little bit of an unreadable player. I feel like it's like I talk to Umber sometimes about Byers and Manacle, and even Umber, Umber states, I know Byers. I'm pleasantly surprised on how much he's gone into Manacle and the game. And I'm like, okay, that's both good and bad. It's sort of it's an unusual thing of you did not expect that person to be that connected, but oh wait, they are. I don't know. I feel like every tabletop I have, I can kind of talk about a little bit about the players, and every game I'm in with other players, I think I try to get that read too, because it helps to work with them. And it doesn't always work, because players try to interact in positive ways. And again, that comes down to also a good table should be people that can work together and have at least part of their philosophy the same. I wouldn't want to put a person who's pure role-playing together with a person who wants to just do all the combats and stuff.
Yeah.
That wouldn't work. I could probably put someone that likes a little both of them with the person that prefers role-playing, because the person that prefers just role-playing, sometimes you need a combat, and they realize that.
Yeah, you do need a combat every once in a while. You can't just be you can be a full role-play game, but that requires very specific people.
And it also requires a very specific plot line.
Mm-hmm.
D&D is an adventure exploration game at its heart. Not that you couldn't do other types of things. And a lot of the fantasy games are adventure exploration games at heart. Many of the times, if you look at a lot of the adventures, they're good versus evil stories that might be adventurous stories. These, when you're not getting into that kind of conflicts at all, what kind of story are you building? You're building one that's very different. You could have D&D political intrigue. I'm sure about it. It might be interesting. It would be very limited in the characters that would be useful. What do you need, a team of, bard, rogue, wizard, and maybe a cleric for some... And the cleric and wizard are just for magic. The bard and rogue are for actually most of the skill checks.
Yep.
And then it would be like, maybe like an enchanter, like wizard or like something like that, I don't know. It's
I think it's because of the nature of D&D, and it's just harder to do that kind of thing.
D&D, I think, from its original design, is effectively like, I want to play like the Lord of the Rings books.
Yeah.
That's
And
kind of
have
what
a big epic
big
adventure. Your big Hobbit adventure where you gotta do stupid things and then fight a dragon.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the origin of it, that kind of fantasy. There might have been a few other fantasy novels that I don't know about that like influenced Gary Gygax and whoever the other dude whose name I never remember.
I've no idea.
Gary Gygax is a very cool name, and that's why I remember it.
Yeah.
Gary
Gygax was on an episode of Futurama.
Yeah, he's on an episode of Futurama, which helps a lot.
Part of the reason why I remember.
Yeah, that helps too. And Gygax sounds like it would be like a very perfect like D&D name too.
Yeah.
So he sounds like a character he would have in his own adventures, and that's why I tried to remember him. I don't remember the other guy, but the two of them, they took influence from a lot of places, But I feel like that kind of classic fantasy of being the hero is where they originally came from, and it reflects even nowadays in 5th edition. I guess it's like everybody in a way still wants to be the hero. Unless you're that rare game where people are saying, like, you're playing the villain. And even then, sometimes, you're the hero of the villains. Gotta be honest on that one. You're being heroic to a different group.
I mean, I'm in an evil game. I think I'm the only one who made an evil character.
I gotta be honest.
That's what it kind of feels like.
I gotta be honest, people made characters that didn't really work very well with the plotline. I gave people the plotline to begin with. And
I was given like a basic summary. Hey, you're evil. You work for Cult. All right, Cult Assassin. I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. It's sort of like you might be a lawful evil cult, but sometimes you need things done, and that you turn to someone that can do
sometimes
things.
Someone needs to be silenced,
and you don't want to know about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we worked it out, but it's sort of like. I feel like the only other character that's vaguely has a reason for being there was Worm's character. And then, like, Jinx's character is, I grew up in the cult, which is good enough, I think, even though...
We're having this evil quest, and Jinx is just playing Pokemon.
It's like, well, I grew up here, so it's all I ever knew. And it's like, oh, great, yeah, uh-huh. That's good reason to stick in the evil cult. And then, family tradition. I don't know. Jess is just Jess's character again. And I don't even understand why she's really there. Gotta be honest.
Jess's character is there.
Jess's character is there and does some stuff. I feel like Jess's character fits so much better as Jess's character in Legacies of Kain, but... I mean, I guess playing a vampire, because a vampire can really be any kind of alignment, is good.
Yeah.
I feel like Jess just plays chaotic neutral for every character she has.
That's what it kind of feels like, and honestly, sometimes I'm just for it.
Well, chaotic neutral, chaotic good, somewhere in between there.
Yeah, just give me some chaos. Sometimes you just need a little chaos.
Yeah. But,
If we're talking about reading characters, that makes me a little interested. What's your read on Roland? He's a weird one to read, in my opinion.
Roland's really hard to read. That's the thing is, like, the more I've learned about Roland, the more I kind of understand the basics of the character on a mechanical level. Yep. It's sort of like, I know what type of druid he is. I know why he made some choices. I know he's kind of got this star-based quest because he's inspired by the stars. Neat. What will Roland do in a situation is something I cannot
read Roval at all.
Roval is just unusual.
Yeah, Roval is just weird. I like Roval, but Roval is weird and also just does weird things that are somewhat unpredictable.
Yeah. The entire thing with that Steve character.
Steve. Oh, poor Steve.
Steve. Okay. I don't think there's really like a Kickstarter to talk about. So why don't we move into talking about our games? Let's talk Steve. Steve, who was apparently Roval's enemy or something. I don't know.
I think Steve's just a random guy who found a rock.
Yeah, just a random guy who found a rock. That's what it seemed like at first. Steve was exploring, found this rock. It's the kind of rock that Roval has. Roval wanted it. Roval wanted to know where Steve found it. Got that information. Turns out there was more to this. A lot more. And we had to visit Steve twice, and we also had to learn to hate Steve. We visited the second time because we learned he just bought the house he was in, and he came into a lot of money, which was oddly suspicious. You know, like, oh, he just sold that rock. And I'm like, wait, he sold that rock for, like, dirt cheap.
Yeah, like
where
10
did he
gold
get
or
money?
something.
By selling the rock to buy enough to buy a house, even if it was a crappy house.
It's a really crappy house.
Mm-hmm. So we broke into the house.
You say we. I wasn't there. I walked away as soon as that door got kicked in.
I think didn't we like just open the front door?
So how it happened was Kelmer punched a hole in the door basically.
That's right. And then we just opened the front door.
You just opened it, and then Kelmer bashed the second door down with a hammer
into the bedroom where he was hiding in a chest. He's not good at getting away.
No, he's not.
And I tried to give him good suggestions, and he really just took them in weird ways. Literally, I like how everybody else was like, "Stop giving him suggestions." Do that. I'm like, I'm not. I'm telling him to do the opposite thing. He's not listening.
He's gonna rent out his shack.
I didn't tell him to do that. I said, get a new place. Who said anything about rental?
Oh god.
Who said anything about secret passages out of here? You're an idiot, Steve. Anyway, turns out Steve stole the crystal and some magic items from some other people that worked at the docks, who 3 out of the 4 turned out to be the cultists we killed when we went and fought fish people.
Yeah.
Also, there was an undead that was after Roval.
Nemesis is chasing Roval.
Yeah, Nemesis is chasing Roval, who's looking for stars.
He's looking for stars. Roval has become Jill Valentine.
Yep. Anyway, we defeated that. We went back to Steve and learned that Steve knew about that. Fucking Steve.
Steve's just an asshole.
He really is like the most awful person we've met, I think. He's an idiot and awful. He's a jerk idiot. Because he's really stupid, but he's also really like selfish and stuff and like just doesn't say anything. Oh my god, Steve. So now we have 3 missions. We're gonna go take care of some pirates and some kobold armies and
a weird cave.
And a weird cave. I think the idea of like I think my character's idea currently is just poisoning the shit out of the kobold armies.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. It's a pretty
Hi,
simple
Lightning.
way to. Oh, hold on.
Seems nothing wrong. These are lies and we're lying and slandering Steve. Sure. Steve did nothing wrong. That's so true.
I mean, Roval did like stay in the house as a spider, climb on the ceiling, and then like unwild shape and threaten the man.
I think we were upset with Steve about his entire idiocy of like, I'm gonna rent out my house and make secret passages or something, followed up by, oh yeah, I knew about this undead which was attacking you. That's where our upsetness at Steve came about.
And then Roval threatened Steve, and then went back to his house and stood there all night. And probably got arrested.
Probably got arrested. And that explains why we're gonna have to be without Roval and do something today without Roval. I don't know. Work on getting together poison for kobolds. That sounds like a fun thing. We can just gather together all this poison that I can be like, we're just gonna poison the shit out of all these
kobolds. What we're gonna do, right, here's the plan. We get a bunch of that weed that the capybaras were eating, and we just give it to the kobolds so they don't fight back.
Look, I've got these berries which make anything that they're gonna eat really attractive. We just spike their food with poison and berries and enjoy the show. A couple of them might survive with fox ears. But that's where Kelmer comes in, and Kelmer can be on cleanup. We just have to do it. We have to just do it quickly twice, Because I think Kelmer gets half damage from anything, and you know, as long as we like, and also my idea was also to like do death from above, to be like on Tranthier's back because Tranthier flies, and then you and Roval can do something. We never determined what you two would do. We haven't determined that yet, but you figure something out. Very badly poisoned fox lizards. Exactly. It's fine.
Oh my god. That's a good plan.
Look, poison. It's an idea. It's not anyway. I did have my Sunday game where we headed north to the mountains to check out and get sight of things. And what the heck happened? We fought an Etten. Ran into an Etten. That's right.
Oh, you mean an Eldritch Crab?
No, the two-headed giant.
Oh.
The Eldritch Crab would have been better. Eldritch Crab. So that was fun. I think that's most of what we did on the Sunday game. Did I have Monday? We did have...
We didn't have Monday.
We didn't have records.
You know, records were skipped. You had vampires, though.
I did have vampires, and I did have Pathfinder.
Yeah.
Pathfinder, a second edition. What did we do? We finished up with the elves. We got some gifts from them, and we decided to go exploring, and we headed south, because we had a small map that was only a portion of the entire map, where we knew there was two things. We knew there was this, like, human settlement across the river to the south. But because of some kind of magic the evil cult members have cast on our elven friends, they can't go and check on it, so we're going to go check on them. And along the way, there was a weird opening, which we discovered were kobolds. And we basically... I mean, I say, like, we befriended them, but we kind of, like, became their leaders kind of things. I mean, I'm sorry, they're kobolds. They, like,
I am your god now.
They submit very easily.
They do have... They are very cowardly.
They are very cowardly, and we're like, we'll protect you from the evil cultists which originally enslaved you. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Then, yeah, there was Legacies, in which they had a very nice conversation with two people and learned that they have to go to the bottom of a lake. Good times. Oh, and Umber tried to create a tear in the dimensional fabric.
Yep, that was a thing that happened.
Yeah. I mean, like, I gotta be honest, he keeps using it even though I warned him against it. Like, I'll give you this ability. It has negative repercussions.
Sometimes players just do that.
I know, and I'm like, I gave him the thing. It's like, I will have negative repercussions happen if you use it. And he uses it a lot.
This weapon that tears through the fabric of reality? Yeah, I'll just use it, like, all the time.
I mean, it wasn't necessarily a terrible idea to use it to explore, but I'm like, also like, I feel like there's other things you could have done first. It ended up working out in the end. It ended up working out in the end, just because like I had a vague idea of the abilities of the person they were with, but I didn't know the full abilities I was going to give them. And as soon as they like did some more, I'm like, cool, more powers that are really awesome, you know. Deadly Moonbeam. That was kind of cool.
Moon laser.
Moon laser. Did I do anything in Star Trek? I don't think my character did a lot. I kind of like, as I think back, I'm like, there was an interview with a Cardassian. We didn't manage to catch the Changeling. We had a debriefing. Me and Joe theoretically saved the Changeling's life because it was injured. Things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we have it like in a containment cell, like an actual containment jar, so it really can't take any forms.
I love the phrase "containment jar." That's what I imagine. It was like the size of a pickle jar.
Matt's character captured this changeling by throwing like a bucket on top of it, and then like so had it like over top of it because you know it was in ooze form, you know, it was like in its like liquidy form. And so it's like, okay, it's trapped. And then we're like, well, I gotta lift this up. Everybody pull out your faces. So lift it up and they're like, it's gone. And then they realize finally it's actually hiding in the bucket on the inside of it, disguised as the inside of the bucket.
Nice.
And they effectively then like shop vac it up into like something to capture it to begin with. And I'm like, this is just silly. And Carrion Crown, you finally took out Durston and his new friends.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Anne was very happy to be able to do it finally.
Anne really hated this guy. Like, I mean, like,
I don't know why.
he was not great, but she really hated him. Like,
We've met worse people.
yeah, and she's like, yeah. And two of you got unwantedly bitten.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
I have to see if
There's still like a maybe werewolf elf.
we got two maybe werewolves, but you got a special card and some poison to get rid of it. We just hadn't resolved all that.
Yeah, we have to deal with that at some point.
Yeah.
'Cause you got like 3 days or something.
I think you have some wolfsbane. Someone picked it up, and I'm just gonna say
We have a lot of wolfsbane.
Yeah, I think you got some. It might have been on someone's character sheet that disappeared.
I don't know.
I'm
I'm
just
just
gonna
gonna
say
say they have it. But
I'm just gonna say you have it because I don't remember where.
probably
it
put in
ended up.
group loot.
If it wasn't, it should have been. Honestly
Yep.
speaking, but
Probably
yeah.
just shoved in group loot.
Well, that's two opportunities that you don't have to use the cards or something for
Yeah,
that.
you could maybe get cured.
You could maybe get cured. Yeah, and the fact is, like, both of you got bitten by werewolves, so you might be cautious about it anyway, because you're nowhere near a place that you
Yeah.
can uncurse it just in case. It's like, hey, we got a bunch of this wolfsbane. You can take some. It's not a perfect thing, but it's a great way of preventing it just in case. And let me look after you medically while you take it, or something like that. But,
And during like werewolf fun time, you probably would have got a rundown on werewolves from the werewolf hunter and the actual, technically werewolf.
yeah. So you would have known a lot about that. Hey, we got a Rachel raid.
Hey, raid.
Raid! So yeah, so Wednesday was pretty good. I think like you've explored a couple buildings in Fulgrew. They really shove you into encountering Durston to begin with. Right away. Like they have that trail from the first building you meet right to where he's at. I mean, like, they want you to resolve him right away, whether or not you kill him, drive him off, or redeem him in some way. But, yeah, he's totally a werewolf and mean and evil.
Well, he's nothing now. He's a corpse on the floor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And apparently Anne took the head, I guess.
Or took it off, at least. I mean, that was like one of those things. I'm like, he reverted back to a person who's taken off his head.
You gonna go wave that around at a university now?
I don't. She just had such a hatred for
And
that.
needs more face.
We're discussing a game we had on Wednesday, where two of the characters got bitten by werewolves, and then they also had found a character they kind of hadn't liked that had just become a werewolf. And so they killed the crap out of him. And by didn't like, I mean one of the characters really hated the others who were just like, you're kind of terrible.
Hey, you attacked us.
Yeah. So, like, and then after dispatching him, our Magus decided just to behead the werewolf after he changed back to a man. And I'm like, what do you do? Why are you doing that? You're putting on display? You're just doing it?
Feels excessive.
He's dead already. He's very dead.
Feels very excessive.
Yeah, Olivia did explain that was stupid and reckless. Yeah, I agree. This was like Olivia doing a very good job of being like, why are you doing that? This was good. That was I don't know, like, that was a good opportunity for Olivia and Anne to interact more, because Anne is just a weird emotional bag of messes.
There's probably going to be some interaction next session because of that.
Yeah.
Olivia's.
And Anne is a massive
little
bag of
uncomfortable
emotional
by
mess
it.
that's really like hard to deal with.
Here's the deal, because I kind of explained this vaguely in the party. We're in the Furrows. Olivia is from the Furrows. Furrows were burned to the ground by an army. It's full of undead now. She really doesn't want to be there, but is stuck there now.
It's insanity. Do you have any other games on Wednesday?
I didn't have anything on Wednesday.
How about on Thursday?
Just the one shot was on Wednesday. That was it.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. I read my one shot.
It's just the one shot.
At the Star Trek one shot.
Yeah.
If you missed it, we finished it. It was fun. Took like
It's like 3.5 hours or something.
about 3.5 hours, which is not bad. May the 4th plus 1 be with you.
Yeah.
Be with Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
We had 2 cats,
Two cats,
a
an actual
hologram,
human.
a liberated board, and then the token human.
The human was great.
Benedict was pretty entertaining. I like playing with Eric. He does really interesting characters.
This is like the first time I've gotten to play with Eric. I liked what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
Very much enjoyed Benedict.
He's a fun one to play with.
It was almost 4 hours. Jeez.
I think it was closer to 4 hours because the call was 4 hours because we started around 8. We were starting late, definitely.
Yeah.
And then because I think by the time I actually went full live, it was around 8:30ish, and we went to like a little after midnight. So it was pretty close there. But that was also like I'd been top screen for a little bit there, so we were setting up. Man.
Yeah. I think the thing that cemented my enjoyment of Benedict was like right at the beginning, where Eric was like, "Yeah, he just like waves his arm to open the door for people to go in."
It's like I know I don't need to do this, but I wanna.
It's very polite.
And it's like one of those things like everybody knows like you don't need to do that. It'll just open for us. But, it's like, but look, it's just the way things work. It's just the way I do things.
Polite.
Yeah. It was great little things like that. I think there was some really good moments. I think certainly as a one shot you're never going to be perfect, and I think there were some issues with it. I think some of the pacing was some of the issues, and trying to find a balancing act between all the roles there was. I feel like it was a lot of engineering because it's like the base story sitting is inefficient. Yeah. I mean, I did put Shaggy in the medical bag, even though he came up very little. Was it Norval Rogers, which is...
I think, yeah.
Yes, which is actual Shaggy from Scooby-Doo's name, which I had to, like, look up the actual spelling for.
Made me very happy.
Yeah, it was unfortunate that, like, it just ended up very hard for us to get, like, some medical, and even some science stuff was actually hard to get, because, like, I think, like... Bob didn't do as much, but I feel like Star Trek is a much more cooperative game, so trying to find that balancing act with everybody doing things, it's not always easy.
And like even from medical, just doesn't feel like it's gonna come up that often.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, even in a full game, it might be a little rare.
And I think for like a one shot, those Star Trek benefits for more people. Like as much as I enjoyed our team of 5, I feel like maybe for a Star Trek one shot you want to aim for 4, because that should be like that. Maybe that's a sweet spot number, because I feel like Star Trek benefits from having around 5 people best. Like you can have 4 people, but consider this. Consider Josh on Funny Ones game that I'm in. We technically have 8 characters.
Oh wow!
Because each of us has 2 characters. Now, granted, 2 of us hasn't finished ours, meaning we have 6 characters right now that are active, and then 2 floating. I'm going to be making a psychiatrist or a counselor. That's what I thought about doing, because like my character in the game suggested making a counselor, so I'm thinking that's the character I'm going to make, a counselor. Toppest Meow. Toppest Meow would have been so ridiculous. I don't.
No one can be as good as Toppest Meow.
Yeah, Toppest Meow would have been pretty good. I just. It would have been an interesting character to play. I just don't know if it could have been played, how well it could have been played. That's like one of those questions. I think like Steph was like a better made character, but like maybe not like the same kind of character. Like that's hard to say. Maybe, they're both made well. But like Steph's a Borg. Borg for Josh.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, hell yeah.
Oh fuck, for Josh is good. I can't do that to Josh. I'm not that mean. You want to spend channel points and give him Toppest Meow? You spend your channel points on Toppest Meow. You have 1 billion channel points. Just, oh god.
Oh my god.
He has a thing for channel points you can spend to do NPCs for stuff, you know. So
Oh my god.
just because again, we're having an entire crew, you know. So like, there's a lot of like crew suggestions. Top of spell. I could.
Amazing.
I have to figure out what everybody else is gonna do because the two we've had are like the chief engineer and our security chief are like other player characters. So we have. Oh, the player channel points ones are very basic.
Unfortunate. I guess Tapas Meow will have to wait for another day.
Yes. Hi, Damien. Meow. We summoned him by saying Tapas Meow. Ah, she leaves.
You should watch the Star Trek one shot. It's pretty good. It was very fun.
They fought definitely not a, no, they fought legally distinct warrior culture in armor that tends to use blasters and sometimes some melee weapons and has hover packs, not jetpacks, and talks about ways.
Totally doesn't exist anywhere else.
Totally legally distinct. I didn't even name what they were called. They could have given the name of their people. They did not. That is their way.
One of them may have had a baby. We don't know.
Oh no, you didn't meet that one.
We didn't meet the baby, unfortunately.
No, I didn't meet the baby, unfortunately. They were too busy, like energy torpedoing your ship. And see, like, I remember there was the weird Star Wars energy torpedoes because people were talking about they're going to be like A-wings or X-wings, A-wings or X-wings that like disrupt energy, you know. And I'm like,
I think Y-wing is also do it.
Yeah, but I remembered those weapons. That's what I was thinking of using there, you know.
Well, I mean, if I hadn't rolled a 2 and then 4 1s on my command check, you may have had to punch the Romulans.
Man, I think it ended up pretty well. Like there's supposed to be a showdown with the Romulans. I kind of had that still. We replaced the showdown with the Klingons with the not Andalorians. And I added like a hive of scum and villainy you could visit.
Yeah, I made friends with a Klingon there.
Yeah, you did. I was enjoying that guy, you know. The Klingon, like, rug and weaponsmith.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like a very Klingon thing. He's got rugs which display tapestries which display epic Klingon war battles, and then also weapons.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And then, did you have a game on Thursday?
I did not sleep that night, so I canceled on Thursday, and the DM was also feeling like not great, so it was canceled altogether. And then I had my game on Friday. They finished off my sort of. Oh, you had a game on Thursday, right? Did you have?
I did. I did have Children of Wrath.
Yeah, I don't remember if that happened or not.
Which some weird things happened. And it's some weird things that, like, I hinted on. But it's the unfortunate part that Maxwell is, and Lee's a little bit misses things. So, I hinted on, because they got this gift from one of the NPCs they had seen before for their wedding. This is something that will help you out in your family. I think I didn't quite say it like that on the nose. But it was supposed to be a magic thing that would, like, make, you know, if your species are not incompatible, you can still have some children together. That was the basic idea behind the design of the magic weapon. And so he nonchalantly put it on, used these, like, set of, like, rings on himself and his wife. Now, his wife has been on a quest to make him human again, so they can have a family. So, it's this idea of, like, it's that thing about, like, you know, the married couple, which, because the thing is, it's Deus Ex possible baby right now, you know, because you don't know if it was successful or not. I had them roll a bunch of
Schrodinger's baby.
Schrodinger's baby. But she did want children. He kind of wanted children. this is the unexpected possible pregnancy kind of thing. It's a weird storyline that kind of came up.
I feel like you can just preface every discussion of Children of Wrath with something weird happened.
I mean, look, this is one that I wanted to set up because I felt like, you know, it had been a kind of thing discussed before. You know, that, like, you know, Maxwell's a family man. And I brought up in discussions with Latula that she would like a family at some point in time, you know? So it's sort of like this thing that has been discussed, and then they got married. And so this is one of those things I wanted to bring in because, again, we've talked about having storylines for getting Maxwell to be human again, but it might not happen. And so that's why, like, in a discussion he had with his wife, she's like, maybe he sent us this because he thought we might not be able to make you human again. I don't know what this means for a child, but maybe we can have one. And also, I don't know what the heck it would be for a child because it's between a merfolk warlock who has the ability to, like, turn fins to feet and a human skeleton who is, like, created by a magical silver tongue.
That's weird.
Yes.
I'm sure there's definitely someone has made some kind of table for this.
Somewhere along the way, I might use some of those Dampier rules. It seems kind of half appropriate to use some of those Dampier rules for once.
Yep.
I was like, this kind of seems like maybe that'll be the idea to use if I do it. I've kind of left it open because story-wise, I don't know how much I want to use of it, you know. It was something I wanted to put in there. It's planting seeds you might not always use.
Yeah.
And then some important people showed up and, you know, totally planeswalked in and kind of are trying to assist them. And then the full group hasn't arrived yet to assist them. Of the Magic the Gathering Super Friends. They really are kind of the Super Friends.
Nice.
They've been compared to it, and, you know, they brought in the Super Friends to take care of some of their issues.
I mean, anyone's gonna deal with it. It's the Super Friends.
Yeah. They got the giant albino Catman and form of an ice bucket and the giant, like, silver golem man, and they already had Time Wizard. Now they have to bring in Mind Wizard, Pyromaniac, and the elven druid lady.
Yeah.
In order to assist them still. And they might just bring in a distant ancestor of Wintress and Hangs. Because there's a core planeswalker who's lived really, really long time. Yes, Steve. There was another game that I joked about having a Steve character with the same name as the one that Roval gave. I don't remember.
Deus Ex Steve.
Yeah, he's bringing Steve. No, they have to bring in everyone's favorite Kraken, Slither Karkelkink.
Yeah, there you go.
Who's like the psychic wizard of class or something.
If I ever have a game with Umber in it, there's gonna be a Durston. I'm just gonna put Durston in the game.
We already have a Durston on Saturday, too.
Yeah, no. Umber cannot escape the man who is all forehead.
He's really forehead. Oh, God. Yeah, it was some good games this week, I think. Some interesting ones, certainly. Hi, Damien. You want to come up here? You want to crawl into view? Yeah, you're sort of crawling into view. Oh, it's Durstan, not Durstian.
Cat.
Durstan. Hi.
Legally different. Paizo don't sue.
Paizo don't sue. Oh, Paizo. Meow, 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 don't sue. I mean, I'm sure there could be another person by that name. It's just a name. I mean, he has a different last name. We haven't found out his last name. Meow, 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 meow. Anything else after that? I'm, like, so blanking out. I was going to talk about, like, something Kickstarter related, but then decided to wait because...
I had a game.
Oh, you got a game? Cool.
I had a game on Friday.
Oh, that's right. I'm forgetting. We were going to talk about it.
They finished up technically Harrowstone with a lot of changes and bullied a ghost really badly.
Oh, poor ghost.
Because Yeah, Lightning's character just casually took off their duster and was like, "Yeah, I have wings," and just flew down a hole and looted a bunch of stuff. They killed a bunch of ghosts. The Wraith almost one-shot our Warlock, which was hilarious, and led to a great moment of, at the start of the fight, the Warlock, or the Wraith rose out of the big pit in the ground, and the old man at first tried to hit it with a shovel and screamed, "Get back down!" and then got punched in the face, and then hit it with a shovel and screamed, "I said get back down!" And then they fought another ghost. I tortured Lindsay with that one name trap in the basement where you just get your wisdom drained.
Oof.
It was a crit, a critical hit with a shovel. And then they fought Splatterman.
Ooh.
And bullied Splatterman severely to the point where Splatterman cast a single spell because kept having to run away due to dissonant whispers. Just not a fear effect, so he's not immune to it. And then our barbarian took the charger feat and then charged and shoved Splatterman into a wall, and then he proceeded to start his turn in a wall and died in the wall. Yep.
Good day, good times, good times, good times.
They bullied a ghost.
You mean people. Bullying that poor ghost.
Ghost didn't do anything wrong to you people.
Yeah, exactly. It was a nice, friendly ghost. Had nothing wrong. Why were you beating it up like that? Such mean people. Such mean people. Well, sounds like it was an exciting week of games. I think that's it for our show then. After that, usually, we did talk sort of a Kickstarter thing. We got through all the other stuff. Yes, Lightning, you missed the unfortunate talking about. We were talking about knowing your table a little bit more, and like, you know, it's a good thing to like try to get an idea about your table and try to work with them. And you know, I was reflecting on theirs. I've been probably not as good, especially on the Pathfinder side, of knowing what the hell people's characters can do. Gotta be honest.
We could have a sit down and discuss.
I really should. If I was to, if you were going to tell me what anything your characters can do, I'd give you the bare minimum. I could tell you, like, Anne could strike someone with the shock and grasp, and then has some other spells. Lightning's character can hit people with a bow, and I think has some spells. Your character does things.
Very specific blaster build.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Just blastery stuff. And then the other character, Manacle punches stuff, and then maybe does something insane. I know Soren because I built Soren. That's the only one I know. It's like he does.
And then new orc boy got stabbed by a unicorn and can heal people.
I like that we have the story that unicorns stabbed him. It's like, allow me to give you my power. Oh God! Oh, that's
my magic channeled through my horn.
Oh, why was that? Sounds
I can only channel my magic through your kidney.
Oh God, this is really painful. Don't worry, you'll heal afterwards thanks to my powers I'm granting you. Oh, I'm not really happy about it. Oh God. Ugh. Yep. Good times. But anyway, thanks for joining me, Momo. Thanks for everybody. Thanks for Lightning. Anybody else who hanged out in chat. I think we'll head off now. So I got a couple of hours.
I got to make some food before a D&D.
I really got to run off to the store. I keep putting it off, and I probably should at least do that and then finish the food I've got now. I might not have to worry about food until after D&D then, but look forward to more stuff. At very least, Monday's the next thing for Records of Evil, 2 p.m. EST. That should be on the schedule. Hopefully, we're getting close to the climax of that game. I'm aiming to. I'm gonna tell people I'm aiming to end it in 1 or 2 sessions. I'm gonna be honest about that. That's kind of where I'm aiming right now. There's been a lot of delays and issues with Records, and I'm trying to finish it up. So that's the big one. And then Legacies will be after that. Kind of on its back end. Anyway, I might stream something at some point, you know, etc., etc. What's up, Lightning? I'll then see you in 2 hours. You said my name all in big capitals.
All right, that's a lot of caps lock.
Mm-hmm.
Must be important.
Oh, tell you the Sunday game idea in chat. I will do. Anyway, bye
Bye.
for now. Farewell.
Yeah.